Welcome to another video. This is Khadija and today I'm going to be showing you how I revised for my iGCSE or GCSE exams, whatever you'd like to call them. The tips that I'm going to share helped me to get A stars in all of my subjects in GCSE, so I hope they help you as well. Let's dive straight in. So first of all, I'm deciding to talk about revision timetables and the actual truth about them. So obviously you may have heard making a revision timetable helps loads of people, and many YouTube creators have said that that's what helped them to get the best grades, but to be honest, I didn't really stick to them at all. I made them on Google Sheets, as you can see over here. I actually made two, one for the holidays and one for during school. The school one had a different schedule in the sense that, of course, I had classes during the weekday, and yeah, so you get the gist of it. But actually, even though I printed the schedule and everything, in the end, when it came to studying, I didn't stick to the revision schedule that much. But what helped me was something else. I found out a way to make these timetables from another YouTube channel, actually, Ali Abdal. And so yeah, the credit goes to his videos. This type of timetable I like to call subject specific because, as you can see, you make one timetable for each subject. It's not necessarily a timetable, more like a track or a check of how much you have revised. So all the topics for each subject are listed, and you write down the date you last revised that topic next to it, as you can see over here. And the reason this helps so much is because you know which topics you did like the latest, or you did like really long ago, and then you can color code in the sense that you know which ones you know well and which ones you don't. And this helped me so much because I knew, okay, I've done these topics and I'm good in them, so I have to focus on the other topics, and I should not just keep doing flashcards on this topic and so on. If you want to know more about how to make these timetables, watch my other video on how to make a revision timetable for your GCSEs or iGCSEs. However, do keep in mind that I talk about the standard timetable, which isn't really useful or helpful, so you can skip that part of the video. The next thing I want to jump straight into is notes, not textbooks. So the importance of notes is something that I want to stress upon in this video. Even though popular opinion says that notes don't really help, I felt that they really did for me, because instead of poring over the textbook and boring myself and just rereading again and again, instead I looked into my notes. As you can see over here, these are my notes for accounting. Yeah, so I looked into them and found the stuff that I actually needed to know, the important stuff, which I had typed out while attending classes and even outside of classes. I collected everything from my previous year's notebooks, typed it out and printed it, and then I even added these sticky notes over here if I missed anything out. And yeah, so overall these notes helped me quite a lot when I was doing past papers and I needed to quickly look something up. I went to the notes, not the textbook, because the textbook sometimes gets overwhelming. Not only that, but many students seem to rely on textbooks as their main method of passing their GCSEs or acing their exams, but that's not the case. Textbooks don't help as immensely as most people think. They do have some useful information which can be quite essential at times, but most of the time students just keep reading the stuff in the textbook without really understanding it. Now, the main thing is to actually understand what your teacher is saying, not ignore or be in a different state of mind while the teacher is teaching and then going home and reading the textbook, not understanding anything, rereading it again and again. That doesn't help. So what I'm trying to say is that when you are attending your class, take notes at that time, or later on if you're not able to attend the class or something happens or you don't get it, go through the textbook but make notes. And these notes have to be made months before your GCSE exam. This is another huge mistake that students make. They think that, okay, if notes are important, that means that 1 week or 2 weeks before my GCSE exams, while revising, I should sit down and take notes. No, that's not the case. By the way, the app that I use to take notes is the Bear app. As you can see over here, is very good because you can sort out your notes into subjects, as I have done on the side, and a link to my full video on how to take notes using Bear is in the top right corner and down below. Okay, so resuming, You shouldn't take notes just 2 or 3 weeks before your GCSE exams. They should be prepared months before so that when it comes to revising, you have everything ready and all you need to do is go through them or make sure that there's nothing you don't yet understand. Now, next, let's go on to my favorite and most effective study method, which I cannot even say in words how helpful it was: flashcards. The main thing to know about flashcards is that they are not easy to make. Making flashcards is a whole another task from studying flashcards. Don't mix up the two. The same thing with notes. You cannot prepare flashcards just 2 or 3 weeks before your exams. No, these have to be ready almost months before, and when your exams are coming, you have to use them, study them, not make them. So that's one thing cleared. Another thing, you can make flashcards online and on paper. I made all the flashcards for all of my subjects online actually, except the ones that you see before you, which are the commerce ones. Another thing, if some of you don't have an idea what flashcards are and why they are so useful, well, you can watch my video, which is linked in the top right corner and it's down below. And by now, I think I'm recommending too many of my other videos to keep you still watching this one. But anyway, that's an unnecessary thought in between. So yeah, flashcards. Flashcards are great, brilliant. Flashcards are the main reason I passed commerce and ICT and history. Otherwise, I would not have, because this is just a small kind of story thing. It's not that related, but for commerce, I didn't really even want to touch the textbook. I really, really didn't want to open the textbook because I don't generally like commerce that much. So I had my flashcards, however, and that's what helped me to learn all the boring chapters, which I didn't want to touch in the textbook. And then for ICT, I made flashcards for every single chapter, and I didn't even touch the textbook. It was in my box the whole time. I'm being honest. And for history, I didn't even open the USA book. I didn't open it at all. I was simply using flashcards. So, quick recap, please use flashcards as much as you can. They're very simple to make. Questions at the front, like here, and then the answer is at the back, and you test yourself basically. Most of the times, I would recommend that you make diagrams or drawings at the back of the flashcards, as I've done over here, because that's much easier to remember in your head, especially if you have a photographic memory, like I do. And besides, if you just write loads of text at the back of your flashcard, it's not going to be much different from your textbook, and the flashcards will sort of lose their original purpose. So yeah, these are my commerce physical flashcards. Now let me show you my online ones, which don't include diagrams because that was near impossible. But anyway, these were made on Quizlet. Quizlet is basically my preferred app for making flashcards. It's available on the phone, as you can see, and on the laptop as a website, Quizlet.com. And I love these study methods and the way you can learn in Quizlet because there are many options. As you can see, I'm doing a multiple choice over here for Of Mice and Men, which is a novella that we had to study for literature. So I would recommend that you use Quizlet. Once again, I have another video on how you can use Quizlet most effectively, so you can watch that. It's linked in the top right corner, as always. It's not very hard to make flashcards online. It's much easier, I would say. So I recommend that you do it online as well. But of course, it's up to you. Some people prefer to do it on paper. So yeah, of course, that doesn't matter as long as you make the flashcards properly, preferably with diagrams and short sentences and not too long paragraphs, then you're done, you're good to go. Also, another tip that I would like to give is the type of questions you put into flashcards. So for example, for Of Mice and Men, which you just saw right now, I chose to do flashcards on quotations because for Of Mice and Men, we were not allowed to get the book for the exam, i.e. the text. So we had to memorize the quotes, and as a result, I made flashcards because I knew that I couldn't memorize quotes otherwise in relation to in context. So I might remember the quote, but then when it comes to writing the answer, I might forget which quote to use where and stuff. So I wrote things like George is the one who's usually leading the way, and at the back there would be a quotation for that. And then Lenny feels lonely, and then there would be a quotation for that, or two quotations that match, that statement. So this really, really helped a lot because I could then use these quotations throughout my answer in the exam. So yeah, that's just a small tip. Of course, you can use the same tip for other subjects. For example, history, dates are very important, so you can go ahead and do that, and so on. Now, another thing I wanted to mention in relation to flashcards, I feel like the flashcards section is getting too long, but yeah, I had to mention that I also bought ready-made flashcards for literature because they were affordable. I mean, they were at a good price, and they're pretty amazing actually. I think they're the main reason why I got such good marks in literature, alhamdulillah. And I bought for Macbeth and an inspector called Not for Of Mice and Men. As you can see, that's why I made Of Mice and Men flashcards on my own. These flashcards were by CGP, and you can get them on Amazon or other stationery shops probably. So yeah, I would highly recommend these flashcards as well, and the links to buying them are down below. This is not an ad. Moving on, we come to another study method, blurting, and this is probably the study method that I use the least, like the very, very least. And it involves basically choosing a random topic from a subject and then literally blurting out whatever you can remember about that topic onto a piece of paper, like I'm doing over here. So as you saw, I emptied some chits onto the table, and these chits include names of the topic. So as you see, I open one here and it says unemployment, which is a topic in economics. So now that I know the topic, I go ahead and blurt out on this piece of paper whatever I can think that's related to unemployment, anything and everything. And this tests your memory in the sense that you're trying to pull out information from your brain that you remember in relation to the topic. And then once you're done, you can refer to the textbook or your notes as to whether you remembered everything or if you wrote something wrong. What I did, I just used post-it notes, cut them up, made small chits, and then saved them in these zipper bags. I had some for commerce, economics, ICT, history. Not for all the subjects. I didn't use any for English because I didn't feel like there was anything I could do with English in relation to this. But yeah, so this is how the chits look like, and they each contain an individual topic. If you want, you can use this method more than flashcards. It depends on the person. It might be that blurting suits you more than flashcards, but for me, I didn't use this study method much. Mostly I feel I didn't get the time to use it much, and these poor chits just stayed in my drawer. Okay, so now since everyone is obviously different and everyone studies in a different way, I do have some tips for people who might not be able to study very long looking at a screen, or they can just use one study method to study. For example, they just can't study for so long just using flashcards, or they just can't keep looking at notes. Some people's focus just drains away, and mine does as well many times. So in this case, you can search for different options to study. So here is a website called BBC Bitesize. I think it's quite popular among students, but if you do not know, well, here you go. BBC Bitesize is amazing. I used it almost all the time, especially for English and history, and sometimes for maths. So as you can see, this is all their content on English language GCSE, and it's brilliant. They have many GCSE subjects, everything and anything you could ever hope for actually. So yeah, this is history, and there's lots of content on science subjects as well, which I feel is very beneficial for those who struggle in science and so on. So yeah, I would recommend that you try to differentiate your study methods, try to do something different like using this website and testing yourself. And you can also go ahead and watch videos on YouTube. I also did this quite a lot, especially for literature. I feel like we're talking about literature quite a lot. I mean, I used YouTube so much for literature as well as commerce, as you can see over here. There's this really nice channel called Magnet Brains. They have stuff on economics, commerce, and art subjects. And yeah, so YouTube is another good way to change your study method. Okay, so one important thing I must add is that while you may use your laptop for changing your study methods or doing something else, it's highly distractive to use a screen, and you might end up going onto YouTube and not watching study videos, but ending up watching something quite different, which will waste your time. So it is advisable not to use a screen, although sometimes, of course, it is unavoidable and you have to in the case of flashcards and stuff. But I would recommend that in that case, please set downtime or limits using settings, etc. Now we come to another widely used study method, mind maps. Mind maps are something that I actually enjoy making, unlike flashcards and notes, because there's something creative about it. I just like making flashcards. It feels so satisfying when I'm done and I look at them like this. Anyway, besides that, I made mind maps specifically only, yes, you guessed it, for literature and history as well, but I didn't use the history ones as much. I used flashcards more. So these are my mind maps for literature. These ones are on the Inspector Calls play. As you can see, Eva Smith, then the Inspector Calls themes and stuff kind of thing, an overview of Inspector Calls mind map. And then I even made some on Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, and I'm really proud of the Lady Macbeth one, especially because I was able to fit so much information. And the best thing was that the exam question was on Lady Macbeth in the end, so I was really happy, and this helped me so much. As you can see, I have these like subheadings beneath Lady Macbeth and then highlighted parts where they're like important bits or quotations, as you can see, for thy undaunted metal something. And then, as you can see, I never completed the Three Witches one, which is just as well because it didn't come. Of course, I'm not encouraging you to miss out stuff. Yeah. Anyway, this is me creating a flashcard, Mr. Burling from An Inspector Calls, and as you can see at the back, I used a video from YouTube to write down this stuff. You can use any other source, your textbook maybe, or your teacher's notes, or anything else. And mind maps are really good, once again, for those with photographic memories and those who who want a rather creative way of remembering things, a quicker way to revise, something that will ensure that they don't get too bored and stuff. So yeah, mind maps are great that way, and you can use them as a study method as well. Now we come to the final major tip mentioned in the video, which is practicing past papers. Over here is my maths past paper, which I practiced at some point in time, and although I do not remember much, practicing past papers was one of the main ways through which I improved at maths, because I found out so many questions that felt like I had never done before. They were questions which made me want to bang my head on the wall or rip apart the paper and stuff, but yeah, it helped me to understand maths better, even though I didn't like it any better. But still, practicing helps a lot, especially in subjects like maths, accounting, even subjects which require lots of writing like English and literature. And yeah, you have to, of course, check your answers after you practice with a mark scheme or an examiner report. And also, when you practice, you must practice while timing yourself. If you do not time yourself, it's next to useless to even practice a past paper. So set an alarm on the side, set a timer on the side, and you will find this will improve your time management. Next, I wanted to show you a way that I started revising initially in the first place. This is something that you won't find mostly anywhere, but it's just this bonus thing. So I have notebooks like this for every subject. So literature and English, this is the book for literature and English. Some subjects I grouped together because I didn't want to use up so many books. As you can see, it's very battered now. Just look at that. Anyway, so in each of these notebooks, I would write like this main page for the subject. So this is for the literature one with its code. As you can see, I did this the 4th of July in 2020, so before 11th grade started, and this is a key for the book, like blue pen is used for this. It's not necessary, but what's important is this, which is the assessment objectives, AOs, which is a short form, AOs, assessment objectives, and then there's the papers, paper 1 and paper 2, and what AOs they assess, and focus, as in what paper 1 and paper 2 contain in terms of the topic. So unseen poetry, anthology of mice and men, etc. for paper 1, paper 2, Inspector Calls Macbeth. And on the other side, there's a page for English, the same stuff as you can see, and then starting from here are all my practice answers. So As you can see, this is a speech. Then over here is another speech, a redo, I think, of the last one. As you can see, my handwriting is terrible. And this highlighting I did was after I checked the mark scheme, which is very important. When you practice questions, you should check the mark scheme and then highlight what you did right or wrong. And this is literature, explore how the writer presents family, I think unseen poetry, and yeah, so I do a lot of answers here. And then this is just some, these are just some notes which I took during class on sticky notes, and then there's some stuff below. And then more answers, as you can see. So I would recommend having notebooks like these for each subject, where you can just practice questions from past papers or what your teacher gives you or anything extra you find on the internet, and especially have a page like this. Okay, so now we come to the bonus tips, which I specifically put at the end of the video so that you all watch till the end. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so one of the first tips, please write down your exam dates on a calendar, whether on paper or online like I did. You must write them down so that you know how much time you have left. Next, these post-it notes did not really help me that much. The ones that you can see over here, I made them on literature, Macbeth, and yeah, no, I don't recommend using them. I made lots of them and stuck them on my wall, and I've even mentioned them in previous videos, but I didn't really use them that much. Another tip, please wake up early when you want to study for your iGCSEs. I know that it's hard to do that. It's very hard, in fact. But what I did was that I woke up after Fajr, which is a morning prayer, at around 4 or 5, and then stayed awake till 9 doing all the important studying when everyone else was asleep and everything was quiet. And then at 9, I would just sleep again and then wake up at 11 or 12 as a sort of nap. And another reminder not to use textbooks, please. Don't use textbooks as your main study method. Try to differentiate, and yeah, I think that's all. Oh God. Oh. Okay, so this is a folder that I just found. My grade 11 exams paper, since I sat the exams from home. Okay, wow, look at them.